The silent protector. The edge of known space stretched endlessly into the cosmic void, where few dared to venture and fewer still chose to make their home. On the barren world of Kepler 442b, a small human research station hummed quietly with activity, its lights barely visible against the planet's rust-colored surface. The scientists inside worked tirelessly, studying ancient alien artifacts that might hold the key to understanding civilizations that had vanished millions of years ago. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck's reinforced window, watching the stars twinkle in the perpetual twilight. She had been stationed here for 3 years, leading a team of 12 researchers in what many considered a fool's errand. The artifacts they studied were beautiful but seemingly useless, their purpose lost to time and the silence of their creators. "Sarah, you need to see this," called out Dr. Marcus Webb from the communication center, his voice tight with concern. Sarah hurried over to find him staring at a display screen filled with red warning indicators. The long-range sensors had detected something approaching their system, something massive beyond imagination. "What am I looking at?" Sarah asked, though the growing pit in her stomach already suggested the answer. "It's a fleet," Marcus replied, his hands trembling as he adjusted the sensor readings. "Thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. They're not human, Sarah. The energy signatures don't match anything in our databases." Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. Their research station was completely defenseless, equipped only with basic life support and communication systems. They had always assumed their remote location would protect them from any threats. That assumption was about to prove tragically wrong. High above the planet's atmosphere, floating in the shadow of Kepler 442b's smaller moon, sat a ship that most people would have dismissed as unremarkable. The vessel appeared to be a standard human cruiser, painted in military gray with minimal external markings. Its name, Prometheus, was barely visible on the hull in small white letters. To any casual observer, it looked like dozens of other ships in humanity's small but growing fleet. Captain Elena Vasquez stood alone on the ship's bridge, her dark eyes studying the approaching alien armada through the main view screen. At 35, Elena was young for a ship captain, but her record spoke for itself. She had graduated top of her class from the Mars Naval Academy and had spent the last 10 years commanding various vessels on exploration and patrol missions. What her official record didn't mention was that for the past 2 years, she had been the sole commander of humanity's most classified project. The Prometheus was not just another cruiser. It was a prototype, built using technology that pushed the boundaries of human engineering to their absolute limits. Every system on the ship was experimental, designed to test theories that most scientists considered impossible. The ship's power, core alone, generated more energy than some small stars, and its weapon systems were based on principles that challenged the fundamental laws of physics. "Phoenix," Elena said quietly, addressing the ship's artificial intelligence. "How many vessels are we looking at?" A smooth, gender-neutral voice responded from speakers throughout the bridge. "Scanning now, Captain. I count approximately 100,000 individual ships of various classes. The largest vessels measure over 5 kilometers in length and show massive weapon signatures. Based on their formation and approach vector, their intention appears to be the complete annihilation of all human presence in this system." Elena nodded grimly. She had been monitoring the alien fleet's approach for the past 6 hours, watching as they moved with the confidence of predators who had never encountered serious resistance. The fleet belonged to the Zerion Empire, a militaristic species that had conquered dozens of star systems over the past century. Their tactics were always the same: overwhelming force followed by complete subjugation or extermination. "Captain," Phoenix continued, "I am receiving distress signals from the research station on the planet's surface. They are requesting immediate evacuation assistance." Elena activated the communication system and opened a channel to the research station. Dr. Chen's worried face appeared on the main screen, with other researchers visible in the background frantically packing equipment and data files. "Captain Vasquez," Sarah said with obvious relief, "thank God you're here. We've been trying to contact Earth for hours, but something is jamming our long-range communications. We need immediate evacuation. How many people can your ship carry?" Elena felt her heart sink. The Prometheus had been designed as a single-person vessel, its entire interior dedicated to experimental technology and weapons systems. There was no passenger space, no additional life support for refugees. "Dr. Chen," she said carefully, "I need you to listen to me very carefully. My ship cannot accommodate passengers. You need to use your own evacuation pods and head for the nearest inhabited system immediately." Sarah's face went pale. "Our evacuation pods can't make it to the nearest system. They're only designed for planetary emergencies. Captain, there are 13 people down here. We can't survive without help." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, making a decision that she knew would haunt her regardless of the outcome. "Dr. Chen, launch your pods toward the outer system. Set them to minimal power and transmit a distress beacon on a narrow frequency. The alien fleet won't consider them a threat, and hopefully they'll ignore small life pods. Once this is over, I'll make sure someone comes to pick you up." "Once what is over?" Sarah asked, confusion replacing fear in her voice. Elena looked directly into the camera, her expression calm but determined. "I'm going to stop that fleet from reaching your planet." The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Dr. Webb's voice came from off-screen. "Captain, with all due respect, that's impossible. There are thousands of ships out there. What can one vessel do against those odds?" Elena's lips curved into a slight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You'd be surprised what one ship can do when it's the right ship." She cut the communication before anyone could respond and turned her attention back to Phoenix. "Captain," the AI said, "the alien fleet will reach optimal firing range of the planet in approximately 47 minutes. I should point out that our orders from Earth Command were very specific. The Prometheus is not to engage in combat except under the most extreme circumstances." "Phoenix," Elena replied, walking to her command chair. "What would you call 100,000 hostile aliens, preparing to massacre innocent civilians? A most extreme circumstance, Captain. Then prepare all systems for combat. It's time to see if our theories actually work in practice." The alien fleet moved through space like a metal storm, their formation so vast that it stretched across thousands of kilometers. At the center of this armada flew the flagship Dominator, a massive dreadnought that served as home to Admiral Krath, Supreme Commander of the Zarian Third Fleet. Admiral Krath was an imposing figure even by Zarian standards. Standing over 3 meters tall, his chitinous exoskeleton gleamed with the scars of a dozen campaigns. His forearms moved constantly across control interfaces, while his compound eyes processed multiple data streams simultaneously. He had been conquering worlds for the Zarian Empire for over 50 years, and he had never encountered a species that could stand against the full might of an Imperial fleet. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "our forward scouts have detected a single human vessel in orbit around the target world. It appears to be a military cruiser, but it shows no signs of attempting to flee or requesting reinforcements." Krath's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. "One ship? These humans are even more foolish than our intelligence report suggested. What is the vessel's designation?" "The ship identifies itself as Prometheus. Admiral, it is broadcasting a standard warning for us to leave the system immediately." "Amusing," Krath said, settling into his command throne. "Open a channel to this brave human captain. I wish to see the face of someone foolish enough to threaten the Zarian Empire." The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human ship. Admiral Krath was surprised to see only one person visible, a human female in a simple blue uniform, standing calmly before what appeared to be a standard ship's bridge. She looked completely unafraid, which Krath found both puzzling and irritating. "I am Admiral Krath of the Zarian Third Fleet," he announced, his voice booming through the communication system. "You are captain of the human vessel Prometheus, I assume." "Captain Elena Vasquez," she replied, her voice steady and professional. "Admiral, you are approaching a peaceful human research facility. I'm ordering you to withdraw your fleet from this system immediately." Krath's laughter was like the sound of grinding metal. "Captain, you are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Do you have any idea what you are facing? My fleet contains 100,000 warships. We have conquered entire civilizations. What makes you think that one human ship can stand against the might of the Zerion Empire? Elena's expression didn't change. Admiral, I've given you a chance to leave peacefully. If you continue your approach toward the planet, I will be forced to defend it. Defend it? Krath could barely contain his amusement. Captain, I admire your courage, but you are hopelessly outmatched. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick and honorable. Elena shook her head slowly. I'm afraid I can't do that. Admiral, Phoenix, end communication and prepare for combat. The screen went dark, leaving Admiral Krath staring at his own reflection. For a moment, he sat in stunned silence. In 50 years of conquest, no enemy had ever dismissed him so casually. The human captain had spoken as if she actually believed she could win against impossible odds. Admiral, his weapons officer called out, should we target the human ship? Krath's eyes glittered with anticipation. Yes, but do not destroy it immediately. I want to make an example of this foolish captain. Target their engines and weapons systems. Disable the ship so we can take the crew prisoner and execute them publicly on the planet's surface. 20 of the fleet's heavy cruisers moved into firing position, their massive weapons charging with deadly energy. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city, and their combined assault should have been more than sufficient to cripple a single human vessel. All ships fire, Krath commanded. 20 beams of pure energy lanced through space, each one capable of punching through a mountain. They struck the Prometheus simultaneously, creating a brilliant explosion that lit up the entire system. When the light faded, Admiral Krath expected to see a drifting wreck. Instead, the human ship floated exactly where it had been before, completely undamaged. Its hull didn't even show scorch marks. What? Krath whispered, his confidence evaporating, like ice in a furnace. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came through the communication system one final time. Admiral, you should have taken my offer. Phoenix, activate all weapons systems. Show them what human engineering can really do. The Prometheus began to change. Its hull shifted from military gray to a deep black that seemed to absorb all light around it. Panels opened along its surface, revealing weapons that looked nothing like conventional human technology. Energy readings from the small ship suddenly spiked to levels that should have been impossible for a vessel of its size. Admiral Krath stared at his instruments in growing horror. The human ship was generating power levels equivalent to his entire fleet combined. Whatever the Prometheus really was, it was no ordinary cruiser. All ships, he commanded, his voice no longer confident. Prepare for full combat engagement. We are not dealing with a normal enemy. In the depths of space, the battle for Kepler 442b was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. The storm unleashed. Admiral Krath stood frozen on his command bridge, staring at sensor readings that defied everything he thought he knew about warfare. The human ship Prometheus hung in space before his massive fleet like a single black star, its energy output climbing to levels that made his instruments scream warnings about imminent overload. Admiral, his science officer called out, his voice high with panic. The human vessel is generating power signatures equivalent to a stellar core. This is impossible according to all known laws of physics. Krath's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed this information. In 50 years of conquest, he had never encountered anything that challenged the fundamental assumptions of warfare itself. Ships had limits. Technology had boundaries. Yet somehow, this single human vessel was rewriting those rules before his eyes. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human captain. Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen again, but something had changed about her demeanor. Where before she had seemed calm and professional, now there was an edge of steel in her voice that made even the battle-hardened Zerion admiral feel uneasy. Admiral Krath, she said, I want you to understand something very important. What you just witnessed was not my ship's defensive capabilities. That was simply our hull absorbing your weapons fire and converting it into additional power for our systems. Your attack didn't damage us. It made us stronger. Krath felt his confidence crumbling like ancient stone. Impossible, he muttered. No material in the galaxy can absorb that much energy without being destroyed. Elena's expression remained impassive. Admiral, humanity has been preparing for this moment for decades. We knew that eventually we would encounter a hostile alien species with overwhelming numerical superiority. Everything about the Prometheus was designed with that assumption in mind. We don't build ships to fight fair battles. We build ships to win impossible battles. The captain paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. You have approximately 90,000 ships remaining in your fleet. I am giving you one final opportunity to withdraw from this system. Take your forces and leave, and no more of your people need to die today. Admiral Krath's forearms trembled with rage. The idea that a single enemy vessel could dictate terms to the mighty Xerian Third Fleet was beyond insulting. It was an affront to everything he had spent his life building. Human, he snarled into the communication system. You may have superior, defensive technology, but you are still only one ship against an entire armada. Even if you cannot be destroyed, you cannot possibly defeat all of us. We will surround you, overwhelm you, and tear your vessel apart piece by piece. Elena's response came immediately, and her voice carried a coldness that made the bridge temperature seem to drop. Admiral, you're about to learn why that's exactly the wrong strategy to use against us. The communication ended, leaving Krath staring at a blank screen. He turned to his tactical officer with growing desperation. Deploy the entire fleet in attack formation. Every ship, every weapon. I want that human vessel buried under so much firepower that nothing could possibly survive. As his orders were transmitted across the vast alien armada, nearly 100,000 warships began moving into position. The space around the Prometheus filled with vessels of every size and configuration, from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts. It was a sight that had brought terror to dozens of species across the galaxy. Captain Elena Vasquez stood alone on her bridge, watching the alien deployment with the detached interest of a scientist observing an experiment. Phoenix, she said quietly. Analysis of their formation. They are clustering their ships for maximum concentrated firepower, the AI responded. Classic Xerion tactics, designed to overwhelm enemy defenses through sheer volume of fire. However, this formation has several critical weaknesses, such as their ships are packed too closely together for effective maneuvering. Additionally, their formation concentrates their entire fleet in a small area of space, making them vulnerable to area effect weapons. Elena nodded. Exactly what I was thinking. Phoenix, charge the quantum disruptor array. Target the center of their formation. Captain, the AI said with something that almost sounded like concern. The quantum disruptor has never been tested in actual combat. The theoretical models suggest it will work as designed, but the power requirements are enormous. If something goes wrong, we could destroy ourselves along with the enemy. Elena walked to her command chair and placed her hand on a control panel that glowed with inner light. Phoenix, we've spent 2 years preparing for this moment. We've run every simulation, tested every system. Either our technology works or humanity falls to the first major alien threat we've encountered. I'd rather die fighting than live knowing I could have made a difference and chose not to. Understood, Captain. Quantum disruptor charging. Estimated. Time to full power. 3 minutes. Admiral Krath watched his fleet deployment with growing satisfaction. The human ship was now completely surrounded by thousands of warships, with overlapping fields of fire that would make escape impossible. Whatever technology the humans possessed, surely it could not stand against the combined might of his entire armada. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer announced. We have over 50,000 weapon systems targeted on the enemy vessel. Excellent, Krath replied, settling back in his command throne. Signal all ships commence firing. I want continuous bombardment until that human ship is nothing but atoms floating in space. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 50,000 weapons fired simultaneously, creating a storm of energy that lit up space like a newborn star. The barrage continued for a full minute, with wave after wave of destruction focused on the single human vessel at the center of the alien formation. When the weapons finally fell silent, Admiral Krath leaned forward eagerly, expecting to see empty space where the Prometheus had been. Instead, the human ship floated exactly where it had been, not only undamaged, but somehow appearing more menacing than before. Its black hull now pulsed with veins of blue energy, and new weapon ports had opened along its surface. "Admiral," his science officer called out in disbelief, "the human ship has absorbed all of our weapons fire. Its power output has increased by a factor of 10. Elena Vasquez's voice filled the bridge of every ship in the Zarian fleet. "Thank you, Admiral. Your fleet has just provided my ship with enough energy to power our weapons systems for the next several hours. Phoenix, fire the quantum disruptor." The Prometheus released a weapon that existed more in theory than in physical reality. The quantum disruptor didn't fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it temporarily altered the fundamental forces that held matter together, creating an expanding sphere of space where atomic bonds simply stopped working. The effect reached the densely packed alien fleet in seconds. Ships at the center of the formation didn't explode or burn. They simply came apart as the molecules that composed their hulls forgot how to stay connected. Thousands of vessels dissolved into clouds of component atoms, taking their crews with them in death so quick that none of them had time to understand what was happening. In less than 10 seconds, Admiral Krath watched 30,000 ships cease to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, but erased from reality itself. "What kind of weapon was that?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the emergency alarms filling his bridge. The answer came from Captain Vasquez, her voice as calm as if she were discussing the weather. "That was a quantum disruptor, Admiral. It temporarily disrupts the strong nuclear force within a localized area of space. The effect is not permanent, but it lasts long enough to make solid matter revert to its component particles." Krath stared at the empty space where 30,000 of his ships had been moments before. "You're monsters," he breathed. "No civilized species would create such weapons." "You're right," Elena replied. "No civilized species would. But you seem to have forgotten something important, Admiral. Humanity isn't civilized. We're survivors. We're the species that climbed to the top of our planet's food chain by being more dangerous than everything that tried to kill us. We've spent our entire history fighting wars against enemies who were stronger, faster, and more numerous than us. Creating weapons like this is what we do." The captain's voice took on an edge that made hardened Zarian warriors shiver. "Admiral, you came here planning to commit genocide against innocent civilians. Did you really think we would respond with anything less than total warfare?" Admiral Krath felt his tactical situation collapsing around him. He had lost 30,000 ships to a single shot from a weapon that defied the laws of physics. His remaining forces were scattered and demoralized, facing an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every attack. "All ships," he commanded desperately, "ramming speed. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will crush them with our mass." It was a desperate strategy, but Admiral Krath was a desperate commander. Thousands of alien vessels accelerated toward the Prometheus, their commanders willing to sacrifice themselves if it meant eliminating the human threat. Elena watched the approaching ships with something resembling sadness. "Phoenix, deploy the reality anchors. Let's end this." "Reality anchors deployed, Captain. Local space-time is now under our control." The Prometheus activated its most exotic weapon system. The reality anchors created a field of controlled space-time around the ship, allowing the AI to locally alter the fundamental properties of physics. As the alien ships approached at ramming speed, they found themselves slowing down as the space around the human vessel became increasingly thick and resistant to movement. Ships that should have been traveling at thousands of kilometers per hour found themselves barely crawling forward. Worse, the reality anchors began to selectively alter the passage of time around different vessels, causing ships to collide with each other as they moved at different temporal rates. The ramming attack turned into a slow-motion disaster as hundreds of alien vessels crashed into each other, their crews trapped in temporal fields that made seconds feel like hours. Admiral Krath watched his final gambit fail as his ships destroyed themselves in a chaotic tangle of twisted metal and confused physics. "Admiral," Captain Vasquez said, her voice now carrying a note of finality, "you now have approximately 15,000 ships remaining. I estimate that I can destroy all of them within the next hour using conventional weapons. Alternatively, you can order your fleet to withdraw from this system immediately. Krath looked around his bridge at his surviving officers. They were all staring at him with expressions of fear and defeat. In the span of less than an hour, he had lost over 85,000 ships to a single enemy vessel. The mathematics of the situation were undeniable. If we withdraw, he asked quietly, what guarantee do we have that you won't pursue us? You have my word as a human officer, Elena replied. Leave this system and never return, and I will not follow you. But Admiral, if any Xerian ship ever threatens human civilians again, the Prometheus will hunt down your entire species. We have the technology to make that a promise rather than a threat. Admiral Krath closed his 4 eyes and made the hardest decision of his military career. All remaining ships, he transmitted across his fleet, prepare for immediate withdrawal from this system. We are returning to Xerion space. As the broken remnants of the once mighty Third Fleet began their retreat, Captain Elena Vasquez stood alone on her bridge, watching them disappear into the darkness between stars. She felt no satisfaction in the victory, only relief that the immediate threat was over. Phoenix, she said quietly, send a message to Earth Command. Mission accomplished. The alien fleet has been repelled with minimal damage to our forces. Minimal damage? The AI asked. Captain, we sustained no damage whatsoever. Elena smiled grimly. Phoenix, I have a feeling that after today, the galaxy is going to view humanity very differently. That might be the most significant damage of all. We wanted to be seen as peaceful explorers and traders. Now we'll be known as the species that can make ships disappear with impossible weapons. Perhaps that reputation will prevent future conflicts, Phoenix suggested. Perhaps, Elena agreed. Or perhaps it will make us a target for every species that sees us as a threat. Either way, the age of human innocence is over. From now on, the galaxy will know that we're not prey. We're predators who choose to be peaceful. As the Prometheus resumed its silent vigil over the human research station, Captain Elena Vasquez began composing her report to Earth Command. She knew that her actions would change the course of human history, but she also knew that she had made the only choice possible. Sometimes peace could only be preserved through overwhelming force. In the depths of space, the legend of the ship that defeated 100,000 enemies was already beginning to spread. The galaxy would never be the same again.